Oh. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission this Wednesday evening, March 11th. I now call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Chair Michael,
Here.
Vice Chair Kranz,
Here.
Commissioner Narita,
Here.
Commissioner Renaud.
Here.
Youth commissioners are absent and excused, and Commissioner Robbins is also absent and excused.
Okay. Great. So, welcome. We are excited to be here in person with options for those who choose not to be in person to still participate virtually. For those attending in person, complete a yellow request to speak slip and hand it to the clerk. If participating remotely, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom and you will be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. Clerk, please call the consent calendar. Please read the consent calendar.
Certainly. We have the approval of item 1 on the consent calendar, which is the meeting minutes of the regular meeting on January 14th.
Is there any member of the commission who would like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Commissioner, I would like to make a comment at some point when it's appropriate on one of the items, but I don't want to pull it.
Sure. So we'll approve it first and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Okay. If any members of the public who wish to comment on any consent calendar item, now would be the time to make your comment. This is for the consent calendar item only. Madam Clerk, have we received any requests to speak on the consent calendar?
I do not have any public comment in person, and it does not look like anyone online would like to comment on the consent calendar.
Great. So is there a motion from commission to approve the consent calendar?
Make a motion to approve.
Seconded. Thank you.
Vice Chair Kranz?
Commissioner Kranz, go
Yes.
ahead.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Through the
I've been
chair,
in
we're gonna-
contact.
we're going to do the approval first and then make
Oh,
the
okay. I thought
comment.
we were beyond
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Okay,
No
do we
worries.
do a roll call for the
Yes,
approval?
yeah, let's do roll call first. Vice Chair Kranz,
Approved.
Commissioner Narita,
Yes.
Commissioner Renaud,
Yes.
and Chair Michael.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Okay, now go ahead, please.
Okay, thanks
Commissioner.
very much. So I've been in contact with some of the members of our community and just wanted to pass this along. It was in reference to Commissioner Robbins requesting the amendment to the December 10th meetings minutes about the street parking and ownership. And just to let the folks in our community know that the city's allowed access to parking and has created a bit of a reliance on that. We get that. The disuse, the unavailability has caused some hardship for some of the residents within a predictable radius. The lack of ownership is inconsequential. The use was open, notorious, predictable. They could count on it. But much like buying a ticket on Southwest Airline, you're not guaranteed a seat. You're just guaranteed the availability. And I've promised to them somewhat that we will take this to heart and use empathy and just trying to quiet down a little bit some of the uproar from the previous comments. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the commission at this time. State law prevents the commission from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. This public comment section is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, that is subject to commissioners' discretion and can be extended if commissioners wish to do so. Add one more note. We welcome speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. As such, speakers must stay on topic if speaking to a particular agenda item, and if speaking during general public comment, they must address matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. If speakers fail to follow these rules, they will be warned, and if they continue to disregard our rules, their opportunity to speak will be ended. With that, do we have any public comment?
Madam Chair, I have one folk online. I will give him a second to raise his hand if he wishes to speak for public comment, and I have no in-person public comment.
Okay. Let me know when to proceed.
It does not look like the attendee would like to speak for public comment, so I think we can close public
Okay,
comment.
great. So we're going to come to our first presentation on bicycle and pedestrian projects update, and I'm happy to welcome J.U. and Ella Phillips.
All right. Good evening, Commission. It seems like it's been a little bit since we last did a quarterly update, but now that small cells, at least most of the appeals are past us, we are back. And we are back with a new face. So Ella Phillips is our newest assistant transportation planner, one of 3 hires to come. This is the long discussed resource allocation component of it, and this is one of 3. So Ella's going to go over the presentation, and we will tag team on questions.
Welcome, Ella, to the city.
Thank you so much. Perfect. So tonight we are going to start with the bicycle and pedestrian project update, an informational item, and I'm Ella Phillips. Just to go over the agenda for tonight, first we'll go over background information, then capital projects, afterwards planning efforts, and finally recently awarded grants. To take you over the intent for advancing bicycle and pedestrian safety in San Mateo, our purpose here is to provide an overview of active bicycle and pedestrian capital projects, highlight planning efforts supporting the General Plan 2040, share recently secured transportation grants, and this really matters because it improves safety for people walking and biking, supports school access and transit connections, as well as secures regional funding for local transportation improvements. First, I'm going to talk about a few of our guiding transportation plans, and these really have a goal to reduce severe and fatal crashes while making streets safer and more comfortable for all types of users. And these guiding transportation plans inform the city's major transportation capital improvement efforts. Just to go over the ones we have on the screen here, we have the City of San Mateo Local Roadway Safety Plan, the Bicycle Master Plan, Citywide Pedestrian Master Plan, Transit-Oriented Development, Pedestrian Access Plan, as well as the General Plan. Tonight, we're really going to highlight the Local Roadway Safety Plan, or LSRP, and this plan establishes a framework and process for identifying, analyzing, and prioritizing roadway safety, as well as the Bicycle Master Plan, which is a vision for expanding and improving the city's bicycle network. For a little background, we're going to first go over types of bicycle facilities. Class 1 is a shared use path. This is going to be off-street, and it's designed for both bicyclists and pedestrians, and a good example of this is the Bay Trail. Class 2 are on-street, and that will be where bicyclists ride adjacent to vehicles in a designated lane, and it's considered a buffered bike lane if there's horizontal separation provided. And an example of this in the city of San Mateo is Saratoga Avenue. Third will be bicycle boulevards. These are also on-street. Bicyclists share lanes with vehicles, and they're implemented on low speed and low volume streets. They can include traffic calming elements. An example of this is 28th Avenue from Kind to Saratoga. And finally, a class 4 separated bike lane. This is going to be also on street. The bicyclists will be separated by a vertical protection. So this could be a curb, flexible delineators. And an example of this is the Delaware Safe Routes to School, which is under construction, and we'll talk about more in just a minute. Now we're going to move over to capital projects. This is a map overview of capital bicycle and pedestrian projects throughout the city, going from Delaware Safe Routes to School, Peninsula Avenue Corridor, 28th Avenue Gap Closure, 19th Avenue Vashon Island Multimodal Improvements, 3rd Avenue Norfolk street safety improvements, the Hillsdale and Alameda Safety Signal Project, Poplar and Humboldt traffic signal, the Hillsdale High School pedestrian safety improvements, the downtown Caltrain North Access Project, the downtown pedestrian mall, and the local roadway safety priority package 1. We're going to kick it off with the Delaware Street Safe Routes to School corridor. This goal here is to improve connectivity to existing bike facilities and pedestrian safety at crossings. And it's a really key north-south connector for the city. It has key access to the event center, Bay Meadows, the commercial corridor, and schools. And funds were awarded by Cycle 5 of the California Transportation Commission's Active Transportation Program, which enabled the design and construction of a Class 4 separated bike lane and bicycle boulevard. The limits are Delaware Street from 19th Avenue to Pacific Boulevard. It's under City Council Priority A15, as well as a high priority project number 55 under the 2020 Bicycle Master Plan. Outreach was conducted for the project in April, May, and August of 2025 through 2 community meetings, and in May through a City Council study session and SMC Exposition and Fair Association Board. The design phase was completed in summer 2025, and then most recently, Goodfellow Bros was selected as the contractor in late 2025 through a construction bid process, and construction is expected to begin in spring of 2026 and be complete later this year. Next, we're going to talk about pavement management projects that are in progress. I do want to note this will be slightly different from the AR as we first talk about in progress projects and then move to completed projects. First is the pavement management project 4A1. The project began in fall of 2025. It was suspended due to weather, and construction was completed in late spring, will be completed in late spring 2026. Fifth Avenue from El Camino to Ellsworth Avenue, as well as Fifth Avenue from South Claremont Street to South Delaware Street, Laurel Avenue from 7th to 9th, 9th Avenue from South Humboldt to South Amplet, Norfolk Street from Darwin Avenue to Roberta Drive, and Bridgepoint Parkway from Bridgepoint Circle to Bridgepoint Circle are all a Class 2 bike lane. Fifth Avenue is a high priority in the bike master plan, and the rest of the streets are part of our existing network. A Class 2 buffered bike lane will be on Delaware Street from Birch to Sunnybrae Boulevard. That's a high priority in the bike master plan. And a shared use path is medium to low on the bike master plan for Peninsula Avenue from Bayshore to Airport Boulevard. Next, PMP Phase 6B. Construction is expected this fall. It's a Class 2 bike lane with a high priority in the bike master plan. And it will be from West 3rd Avenue from Dartmouth Road to El Camino Real. I have this highlighted over here on the map for 5th Avenue, 9th Avenue, Delaware, Laurel, 3rd Avenue, and 5th. Here is the area for Bridgepoint Parkway between Bridgepoint Circle and Bridgepoint Circle. And finally, Peninsula Avenue from Bayshore to Airport Boulevard. And the idea for pavement management projects is to integrate bike facilities with pavement projects where funding and design is available and feasible. Here are the pavement management projects completed in 2025. We have PMP Phase 3A, 5B, and 6B. Construction was completed in fall 2025 for PMP Phase 3A. For Campus Drive from Hillsdale Boulevard to 26th Avenue, it is a Class 2 buffered bike lane with a medium-low priority in the bike master plan. And on South B Street from 9th to 16th Avenue, this is a high priority and it is a Class 2 bike lane. For Phase 5B, construction was completed in May of 2025. It's a bike boulevard with a medium-high priority in the bike master plan. And this is on South Grant Street from Concar to 16th Avenue. For PMP Phase 6B, construction was completed in December 2025. It has a medium-low priority in the bike master plan. It's on Highland Avenue from Peninsula Ave to East Poplar Ave. And finally, the Class 4 buffered bike lane on South Boulevard was paused due to parking removal. There was a high-level concept design in January 2025, but over 20 spaces for parking were expected to be removed, so staff has put this on pause until more expansive outreach can be completed. Here is Campus Drive, as well as South B Street and South Grant Street for these projects, and Highland Avenue. Taking us over a high-level overview for these, this is Pavement Management Project 3A that was completed on Campus Drive, a before and after. The Class 2 bike lane on South B Street before and after. The Bicycle Boulevard on South Grant Street from Concord to 16th Avenue before and after, and traffic calming was implemented here. We see two speed humps in this area. And this is the Bicycle Boulevard on Highland Avenue from Peninsula to Poplar. Next, we are going to talk about the Peninsula Avenue corridor improvements. So short term, the goal is to refresh roadway markings. Medium term, to work on the Delaware Avenue traffic signal modification project. And long term, to work on the Peninsula Corridor Complete Streets Plan. And the goal here is to improve the corridor across all modes. First, starting with the short term to refresh the roadway markings. The work here is to repaint the travel lane lines, arrows, and crosswalks from San Mateo Drive to Humboldt Street, and construction was completed for this in summer 2025. Medium term for the Peninsula Delaware Traffic Signal Project, this project will design and construct short-term intersection improvements from the local roadway safety plan. In the local roadway safety plan is a high priority project number 7. The budget is $650,000 to $800,000 of local funds. A RFP design consultant was done in July 2025. The project is currently at 50% design, and construction is expected to start in late 2026. Here we have just an overview of a draft concept design with high visibility crosswalks, flashing beacons, as well as studying lighting levels, signal hardware, looking into a protected left turn phase, and a leading pedestrian interval. Long term, there will be a planning and conceptual phase through the Peninsula Corridor Multimodal Complete Streets Study. This is a partnership with Burlingame and the San Mateo County Transit Association. The limits are from Peninsula Avenue to El Camino on Peninsula Avenue from El Camino Real to the US 101 overcrossing. The project is under City Council Priority A15, as well as the high priority project number 1 under the 2020 Bicycle Master Plan. The budget is $375,000 of local funds. $245,000 are from San Mateo and $130,000 are from Burlingame, as well as $1.695 million awarded in grant funds. And this project is expected to start in fiscal year 2026-2027. Next, we're going to move over to the 20th Avenue Gap Closure Project. The goal here for this project is to improve safety across El Camino Real and connectivity to the Hillsdale Caltrain Station and east-west. There will be design of Class 4 and Class 2 bike lanes. The limits are on 20th Avenue from Edison Street to Kine Street. The project priority is under City Council Priority A15, a high priority project number 46 under the Bicycle Master Plan. And the design phase is estimated at $300,000. $280,000 through the SMCTA Bike and Pedestrian Grant, and $20,000 through local funds. The project is currently paused at 35% design due to staff resources. It's expected to start back again in fiscal year 2026-2027, with construction to be determined as it is not funded at this point. The concept design we can see below with one-way bike facilities, a travel lane reduction to accommodate the bike lanes. Here is the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Multimodal Improvement Project. The goal for this project is to improve congestion, safety, and access for all road users. So whether that be walking, riding, transit, or driving. It will design and construct a Class 4 bikeway and pedestrian crossing improvements, and it is a joint project with the SMCTA and Samtrans. The western limit is 19th Avenue and Pacific Boulevard. The eastern limit is Fashion Island and Mariners Island Boulevard. It is also under City Council Priority A15, as well as a medium-high priority number 60 under the 2020 Bike Master Plan. The design phase is estimated at about $1.8 million, $1.4 million being through the SMCTA Bike and Pedestrian Grant, and $0.4 million in local funds. as well as a construction phase of about $26 million, with $26 million coming from grants and $0.61 million coming from local funds. Community meetings happened in July and November, with 2 upcoming meetings, one on April 7th in person and one on April 14th virtually. The design phase is estimated to be complete in fall/winter 2026, with construction starting in spring 2027. Here we have the 3rd Avenue and Norfolk Street intersection safety improvements. The goal for this project is to improve pedestrian and bicyclist safety access and optimize timing through the intersection. The project designs and constructs a Class 4 bike facility and improves pedestrian crossings. The southern limit is San Mateo Creek Bicycle Path, and the northern limit is 3rd Avenue and Norfolk Street intersection. This was under City Council Priority A15, a medium-high priority project under the Bike Master Plan, and it also responds to safety concerns from the community. The design phase was completed in winter 2024. Construction started in spring of 2025 and is expected to end at the end of this month. Next, we're going to talk about the Hillsdale Boulevard and Alameda de la Pulgas traffic signal safety project. And the goal here is to optimize safety for all modes in the intersection, as well as design and constructing new traffic signal and protected intersection for people going to key destinations, including Hillsdale High School, Abbott Middle School, Hillsdale Branch Library, and Laurel Elementary. This was a priority under the 2017 Hillsdale Beresford Traffic Action Plan under top recommendation. The design phase had the final community meeting in fall 2025, as well as design completion in winter 2025. Construction is estimated for summer 2026, and we can see the plans over here with new traffic signals and pedestrian signals, a protected corner, pedestrian refugee island, and the bus stop to stay. Here we have the Poplar Avenue and Humboldt Street traffic signal project. The goal here was to enhance travel for all modes and design and construct pedestrian safety movements. This was a top 3 priority intersection under the 2024 local roadway safety plan. And this is a key intersection because it leads to the US 101 ramp, and also a new school building is being built at the southwest corner. The design phase was completed in April 2025, with construction completed in fall 2025. And also, we can see they had protected left turns, intersection lighting, and a leading pedestrian interval for the intersection. Here we have the Hillsdale High School 31st Avenue Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project, with the goal to enhance pedestrian safety and accessibility, especially for Hillsdale High School students and staff. And the project designs pedestrian safety improvements and a protected intersection at Alameda de la Pulgas. The limits are from 31st Avenue from Del Monte Street to Alameda de la Pulgas. And the priority is to advance recommended improvements from the grant-funded quick mobility projects. This is also important because students use this route to get to school. The City Council approved appropriation funding to cover a grant local match in July 2025, and a professional design consultant will be selected in spring of 2026. We can see the quick build project here at the bottom that this project started. Next, we have the downtown Caltrain Station North Access Project. The goal here is to improve bike and pedestrian access at the northeast side of the Caltrain station. The project will design a new Caltrain entrance at Railroad and Cypress Avenue and improve the entrance on Cypress Avenue. And the limits are from on Cypress Avenue and North Claremont Street to the northbound platform at the Caltrain station. And it is under the 2022 Transit Oriented Development Pedestrian Access Plan Priority Project DT31. The project kicked off in May of 2025. The design is currently at 35% with 3 design alternatives and outreach, and estimated completion is at the end of 2026. Here is the downtown pedestrian mall with the goal to enhance walking and biking downtown. It designed and constructed landscaping, seating, bicycle, pedestrian, and ADA improvements. The limits are B Street from 1st to 3rd Avenue, and it is a pedestrian master plan priority. The original barrier scope was completed in spring of 2025, and mobile public safety barriers were installed just this last weekend on 1st and B and 2nd and B Street. Here we have the local roadway safety program priority package. I do want to note these are screenshots from the LRSP. So I understand that they're kind of hard to see, but they are guiding improvements if you want to look further into them in the plan. The goal here is to enhance roadway safety for pedestrians and drivers, and it includes design and construction of measures included painted safety zones, improved lighting, raised crosswalks, upgraded signage, flashing beacons, high visibility crosswalks. The areas are El Camino Real and 22nd Avenue, El Camino Real on 27th, Humboldt Street in Indian, Humboldt Street in Tilton, Humboldt Street in Santa Ynez, as well as Hillsdale Boulevard and Franklin Parkway and Hillsdale Boulevard and Norfolk Street. These are 4 Tier 1 priority intersections from the 2024 LRSP. And then a housing incentive pool funding was allocated to the city in fall of 2025. An RFP for a design consultant was issued in fall of 2025 with an agreement executed in January 2026. The completion is expected for fall of 2026, and construction is expected to start in spring of 2027. Now we are going to move on to planning efforts. The first being the San Mateo Complete Streets Plan. The goal for this plan is to develop and adopt a comprehensive multimodal plan that will unify the city's transportation plans, including the pedestrian master plan, the bike master plan, and sustainable streets plan. This supports General Plan 2040, the circulation element goal C1. The plan is currently on hold, expected to start back up again in fiscal year 2026-2027. It has an amendment project agreement to extend the agreement term, and this project will be combined with the North Central Complete Streets Plan. Next, we will talk about the Humboldt Bike Lanes Alternative projects. The goal here was to explore the feasibility for a bike boulevard on Idaho and Fremont streets as an alternative to the bike lanes on Humboldt Street from Indian to 2nd Avenue and improve the street lighting. The direction from the City Council in February 2026 was to look into Humboldt speed calming, Humboldt street lighting, a permit program, exploring additional enforcement for North Central, exploring a rideshare program for Humboldt Street, applying initiative to future bike boulevard projects, and explore a one-way feasibility on Humboldt Street. Next, we're going to talk about AB 413 daylighting efforts. The goal here is to prevent prohibited parking on the approach side of crosswalks to increase unobstructed sightlines and reduce potential conflicts and improve safety. And the effort includes completing red curb painting. This was done around school zones for Senate Bill AB 413, and the key school zones are complete. Estimated in spring of 2026, red curb painting will begin in Key Park and downtown areas as well. Finally, we're going to go into recently awarded grants. First, the MTC Housing Incentive Pool Grant. This is awarded to the top 15 jurisdictions with the most affordable units between 2018 and 2022. And transportation funds are used to incentivize affordable housing. Funds from this are going to be used for 4 Tier 1 local priority intersections under the LSRP, and the grant amount was $959,000 for design and construction. And you can see here, this is a project that we are currently working on. Next, we are going to talk about the San Mateo County Transportation Authority Highway Corridor Grants, and this provides Measure A and W funding to reduce congestion and improve safety along major commute corridors. And the city was awarded $16.45 million for the Fashion Island 19th Avenue Boulevard multimodal improvement projects, and this supports a construction phase for the Class 4 separated bikeway and the related pedestrian and intersection safety improvements along the corridor. And the city was also awarded $1.695 million in corridor funding for the Peninsula Corridor Multimodal Project, which will support planning and design for the multimodal and circulation improvements for the US 101 State Route 92 interchange. Key takeaways: the city has currently 11 active bike and pedestrian capital projects, really looking at localized improvements to all the way to corridor improvements of all sizes. The city also uses a diverse funding strategy, so looking at not just local funds, but grants so that we can deliver more projects. And 4 paving projects were completed in 2025 with safety upgrades delivered alongside roadway maintenance where feasible to help get more projects out the door. So thank you.
Thank you. I think you're officially a San Mateo expert. I'd like to open for public comment. Clerk, do we have any speakers?
I have one online speaker, and it looks like I don't have anyone in person. So per adopted council rules, that will be 3 minutes for our online speaker. Mike, I'm gonna allow you to talk right now. And you should see the timer coming up right now. Mike,
Yeah,
can you hear
can-
us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thanks so much to members of the committee for your service and to staff for all the great work. Welcome, Ella. Hope you are as great as all the other public works staff we have. You guys are doing a great job, and we understand the constraints. And we're really excited to hear that we're increasing staffing there. So that's good news. First of all, I want to thank the committee again for its unanimous vote in support of safety on Humboldt Street. We had about 45 plus supporters of the bike lanes at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago, including a lot of kids, young kids, teenagers from the high schools, et cetera. We're really excited that project is going to stay in place, that this allows us to move forward on a lot of the other projects that have been delayed that you just heard about. And I'm really hoping that we can tone down some of the rhetoric. There's been harassment of cyclists on Humboldt for doing nothing other than riding in the bike lane, and that's not cool, regardless of people's opinion. I wanted to let you know that the county is working on e-bike ordinances. It was in the paper today, and that's going to a second review. And I hope that when it comes to the city level, as that might be a template, that the Sustainability Committee does have an ability to take a look at that. Unfortunately, a lot of the regulation has to be done at the state level, and we don't want to do anything that's going to negatively impact e-bike adoption. Sadly, I can't remember last time I was before you, but on January 23rd, 62-year-old Veronica Vasquez died on El Camino after being hit by a left-turn driver at 17th and Beauvais. Unfortunately, it sounds like the city as well as Caltrans are debating who is actually responsible for the design of the intersection. I know it's complicated and there's multiple facets, but I'm hoping we can figure out how to make sure this doesn't happen again and understand the types of decisions that went into this fatality. It's very sad. She was a grandmother to 13 individuals. I really hope that we can move away from the bike boulevards. The 28th Avenue example brought up, I live right there, and it is not safe. There is no traffic calming there, and it's a race course at night, even if the traffic volumes are low. I'm hoping that the committee will weigh in on the recently delayed 10192 direct connector project that the city council expressed its discontent with a couple of months ago. That project could add thousands more cars to the road in our area and has an impact on bicycle and pedestrian safety. One more quick thing. There's going to be a press conference tomorrow in Burlingame whereby the family of Aiden Fang, the 4-year-old boy who was killed on the sidewalk, is suing the city of Burlingame because of the failure to provide daylighting, not at an intersection as required by state law, but at a parking lot exit. And I'm encouraging the city to be proactive here and to start daylighting exits on public streets so that we can avoid future fatalities and the associated litigation expenses of those.
Thank you,
and
Mike.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it looks like I'll close public comment and bring back to commission for additional questions and discussion. Would any commissioners like to go first? Did you want, or you want?
How did I get picked?
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner. Prince. Thank you.
I'd be more than happy to. I was kidding. Oh, thanks very much. That was great. It was very to the point and it was very informative. So a couple of things. Delaware Safe Streets. I can do this. I noticed on slide, yeah, I kind of got confused between the slide numbers. It was towards the beginning. So it was the completed Safe Streets project, the completed, if you could share your screen with us, I'll kind of let you know when we get there. I think that'll work. Okay, go back one. No, forward one. It was the pavement. Right. There you go. So I noticed that, and it's just a question that Fashion Island Boulevard over 101, there's issues going on there with subsidence. Also, noticing that 19th over the San Mateo Lagoon is starting to develop symptomatically the same problems. It's an abrupt change in height between the roadbed and the bridge. So is that a work in progress on a different front, or is that something that's, I know it's a big project and we were going to job it out, have somebody outside contractor do it. Where do we sit with that?
Just to clarify, are you talking about the section over Mariners Bridge
Yes.
at 19th Avenue? Yeah, so
So it's Mariners Island Boulevard over 101. It's a Caltrans bridge, but it's our road, and we have to fix the approach. So our road is subsiding. The bridge is staying forever where it is. So wondering where we're at with that. You did a mitigation project, and it's so far pretty good. But I was chatting with Matt, and apparently there's going to be a bigger, more expanded project going on.
Yeah, through the chair, we don't currently have any funding for the
Okay.
the longer term projects. So right now it's still on the list
hold.
of things, but it's, yeah, we don't have funding for that.
Okay. And is the 19th Avenue over the Lagoon Bridge on your radar also?
I assume that we'll be looking at that as part of the overall design for the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Boulevard project.
Got it. Okay. A couple of slides later, we saw a couple of Peninsula Avenue. Can you enlighten us about scrambles? Does it make sense to put scrambles in on some of these heavily used intersections that are busy?
Yeah, so we look at volume counts, and honestly, in the city of San Mateo, we have a couple of scramble. I think if you go to B Street, you will see that those are some of our first scrambles in our city, and the scramble is ultimately having a pedestrian exclusive phase, but you don't have to either go east-west or north-south. You can basically go diagonal. So as part of the Delaware project as well, we are implementing a scramble as well on 28th and Delaware. And ultimately, the pedestrian volume will dictate that.
And is the button push the driver on that, or does it happen every time there's a cycle of the lights?
It depends. In our downtown right now, it is ultimately on recall. So it will happen on every cycle. In areas that have a little bit more nuanced demand, it will be on demand.
On demand. Okay. Speed humps. Are they the new modern ones that are more gradual, or the old-fashioned ones that are shocking, to use a word?
I think there is a balance of both. I don't exactly know what shocking is, but I would say the speed bumps that we have is intended to slow vehicle speeds.
Gotcha. Okay. Slide 21. It talks about Norfolk and Third. There's an area there where I'm getting some feedback from folks that people are using here. Did I get this silly thing to work? It blacks out when you get to, so if you look at San Mateo Creek Trail, so coming off Third, you make the left turn onto Norfolk, and people are using that to make a U-turn. Is that not have a median for a reason, or are people supposed to make U-turns there?
We will double check. I don't think the U-turn is technically allowed there. I know the project right now is not completed, so maybe there is a couple of punch list items that we're still looking into.
I think folks are getting creative and they realize they went the wrong way. So there's your first available. Slide 25. Promote access to Hillsdale, access to Humboldt bike lane. Is that something that's going to be part of this? So with the train station is here and Humboldt is here, will you be promoting additional bike laneage to get to Humboldt to access the bike path?
For clarification, this project ultimately is to provide a new ingress and egress at the point that you're looking there. So on the northwest side of the station, we're not necessarily installing bike lanes.
Northwest side of the station?
Yes, it's
okay, my bad.
yes, on the northeast side. Sorry, northeast side.
Okay,
northeast
all right, we're on the
side.
same
Yes,
page now.
yes, on the same side.
So once people exit the train station, will they have a clear, safe path to get to a more well-traveled path like Humboldt?
Yes, so the immediately adjacent street, Cypress, is going to be the main corridor. So we will install crosswalks and ultimately look at potentially doing a road diet on that street to facilitate vehicle movements. But as Ella had mentioned, we're in the 35% design and we're still looking at some circulation feasibility.
Okay. Slide 26, you talked about bollards. Once upon a time, we talked about the bollards that sink into the ground and come up, and they were like $500,000 each. Have we gone to a cheaper, a more frugal bollard that can be easily moved as opposed to a mechanical bollard?
What you're looking at here are the current installation in
Ah.
terms of vehicle barriers.
Okay.
These aren't the original in-ground ballers or hydraulically actuated ones that we have discussed, but there is a crash rating associated with this as well.
Okay, so these are the final design. That's what's going to be
At the moment, yes.
perfect. Okay. Hillsdale Franklin, we have to talk about this. Great project. Love what you're doing. It's really going to make it a more vibrant access with Whole Foods and that whole part of the world. Any thought to a bike bridge?
Where specifically?
So it parallels Hillsdale, a bicycle bridge that would cross over 101.
Yes. So wow, this is a long time ago, but in the early
I was young.
2000s, there was a feasibility study that was done in order to look at a bike bridge. And there are 4 landings, which means there are 4 points that the bridge ultimately touches down on.
Right.
2 on the side, on the Whole Foods side, and then there are 2 that is ultimately east of US 101. That project actually paused in its PAED phase due to high constructability costs,
Right.
as well as delivery costs. But it is something that's been identified in our 2020 bicycle master plan
Perfect.
as us wanting to have a connection.
Okay.
So yes, we have thought about it. And at the moment, that is something that we haven't had a lot of traction on.
Super. Well, I just want to give it a little bit of oxygen. Belmont's building one. We might be able to get a partnership with them. Also, maybe, you know more about this than I do, involve Foster City with this because it would impact Foster City as well as something they could dovetail into.
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, the challenge I think with the bike bridges is that they are incredibly expensive. San Carlos though was successful in just getting some of the Measure A and W highway funds that we got for the Fashion Island Boulevard and the Peninsula Corridor. So I think they got 80-something million out of that grant. And so I think the fact that the TA has changed some of their eligibility rules in terms of what types of projects can go for highway funds, because you didn't used to be able to go for bike type projects in the highway program. And so I think it opened our eyes that that maybe there's more feasibility in getting big dollar amounts for bike crossing. But I think we've also talked to the TA about pursuing a Hillsdale corridor study. And so I think that as part of that study, if we get some funding to do a Hillsdale corridor study, that we would look again at the feasibility of some sort of separated bike crossing, whether that would be an entirely separate bike bridge or if it would be some sort of separated bike facility that's attached to the existing crossing over 101. I think that remains to be seen, but I think it's still on our radar. It's just something that I think that the original design at this point, we'd have to study whether or not we want to continue to go forward with that or something new. So
could we slim down that original design and make it more cost effective?
we could look at that as well. I think that would be something that we'd want to look at with the overall corridor study.
Sure.
So
Okay, because if it's technically challenging now, as the population increases and funding gets more tight, it's going to be even worse. So if we could, and this is one of the things I get emails almost weekly from folks. And I'm just trying to, like I say, give it some air, let them know that, we're advocating for them. Humboldt, the permit program. Just a quick comment. I live in a neighborhood with a permit program, and what it's designed to do is keep outsiders out of your neighborhood. So if you live next to a hospital, or we live next to what used to be Franklin 777 Armada, in the old days, there was not enough parking, so they would park in our neighborhood, and by 7:30 in the morning, you couldn't find a parking space. So we went to permit parking. But that's to keep outsiders out. It doesn't keep my neighbors out. So I think I'm just trying to put a cautionary tale on this, that it's not the panacea that maybe we think it is. It's kind of like, unless you live on Humboldt Street, you can't park. Well, the people who want to park there live on Humboldt. The people from Mariners Island are not trying to park over there. So it's just a quick point of reference. And the last thing is slide 33, recently awarded Fashion Island Norfolk. What's that? Apparently there's some, I think it's the slide just, yeah. Talk to me about what's that about? I think you had it actually one back. Fashion Island Boulevard Norfolk design. Does that mean it's in the design phase, or? And what does that look like?
That is correct. That is ultimately the intersection of Fashion Island and Norfolk. And that has been identified in our local roadway safety plan as one of the top 10 intersection location. We were able to include that scope of pedestrian improvements for safety as well as bicyclists in the 19th Avenue Fashion Island multimodal project.
Okay.
So that is currently in design.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. I think I'm done. We're going to talk about the multimodal 19th later or at all today, or is this now the time to talk about it?
You are free to talk about any projects in the presentation, and I
Well, I
think
want to make
yeah,
sure
I think-
I'm on topic.
Well, I think through the chair, I think that we are looking at potentially trying to bring that project back specifically for discussion at the commission and then bringing it back
So
to
then
council.
why don't
So
we wait until maybe a couple of more sessions with the residents and then
I
when
think
you
that
come
that
to
might
session?
be more appropriate. Yes.
Let's do that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Narita, did you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks so much, and nice to meet you, Ella. Welcome. Okay, so this was a big update, probably because there was a backlog I'm sensing. So there was like a lot of energy and a lot of work. So thank you so much for all of that. It was incredibly comprehensive, and my brain's a little tired from listening to it. So I apologize if like if some of my questions are a little basic because I genuinely can't remember quite everything that was presented. So on just some real basic questions. Fiscal year starts July 1, 2026. Is that correct? And is that correct, Jay?
That is correct. So we're currently in 25, 26.
Great. And then when will the additional two of the three, Ella's here. Are there two more hires that are happening or did they already occur?
Those hires are currently, we have issued a requisition. I'm looking at Kathleen, but yes. So
Okay.
we are in the pipeline and we're looking forward to the actual recruitment.
So I'm sensing with some of the themes of like capacity constraints as presented on the slides, we're literally waiting on those two hires to do some of the work as articulated or redistribute some of the work as articulated in the slides. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay, great. And then as another point of clarification and education, could you remind me what is a tier 1 priority for the LRSP? That came up a couple times, but is that like, what's the definition of a tier 1?
Did you mean package one as in
No,
the
no, there were
project?
like 4 tier 1 priorities for the local road safety project, and there were like 4 projects that were categorized as tier 1. But I'm asking, what does tier 1 mean? Like the definition and criteria of tier 1.
I don't recall at the moment, and I will have to follow up.
Okay, because yeah, I was just wondering, like, those are the ones. Because when Bethany has presented in the past, I was like, there's something around what is the tier 1, and I just didn't know. Okay. And then I guess maybe this one might. I'm not sure. Maybe this goes to the director. I had flagged in the past it would be helpful to have a criteria of when something comes to the commission in the design phase. And I think something that turned me around in this presentation was some of it was like, oh, I think we have seen that in design phase. Some of these I don't think we've ever seen, and oh my gosh, they're already done. And so do you have a sense of like when is it most useful to bring something that's in the design phase to the commission? Like, what's the short list or what's the criteria that you're ruminating on?
I think if it's a more significant project, it makes sense for us to bring it here. I think an example, like the commission did previously, the 28th Avenue Gap Closure Project, that one that we mentioned is on hold. And
that's the one with the A, B, C design that we had
yeah.
basically chosen between? Okay.
Yes. And so that's an example of a larger project that requires, a decent amount of community engagement and outreach. And so those are the types of projects that we typically try to bring to the commission. I think another example on the other end of the spectrum might be the Poplar and Humboldt signal improvements that we did recently, where that is something where there's not a lot to bring in terms of design for commission input and feedback. It's more signal operations in terms of how do we set up the timing of the signals and provide the right timing for the left turns and things like that. So that's an example of a project that we would likely not bring to the commission. So it's more of the more significant projects where we're doing significant community engagement and outreach that we try to bring to the commission for feedback.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And so thank you for that clarification. So for the South Boulevard project, Ella, you mentioned that one, there's more engagement that is needed before that one proceeds. Could you expand upon that project with a little bit more detail? What is the engagement that needs to happen?
So that project ultimately is a class 4 facility that connects up to Palm. So that's is on South B Street. And when we were looking into this, initially we were a little optimistic in terms of the layout. But as we progressed with our design, we realized there was significant amount of parking removal. So as a result of that, and just lessons learned from various projects going through it, there needs to be significant engagement to understand the impacts, the parking occupancy. There are businesses there as well. And this is on the southern tip of B Street, which if you just go a little bit north, it is a business district, if you will. So we have to ultimately re-engage and see what's the appropriate avenue to go ahead and do that engagement. But one thing that I also want to note is, and Ella mentioned this as well in the key takeaway, in order to implement our bike and ped network and transportation, as you guys recall in last June, about 80% of our programs are grant funded. So about 20% is locally funded. We like to get creative and tag on top of the PMP program to do a lot of bike projects. But where it does not fit the schedule of the larger scope, which is the PMP, we do have to take up a little break and then reassess to see how we can deliver that project. And then South B Street is one of those.
I mean, I think this is wise, right? And a great lesson learned, because if I recall, the original Humboldt process was tacked on to PMP like at that time back in like 2021. And that's a big lesson learned, was we were trying to create some savings efficiencies and should have done a longer stakeholder engagement. So I think what I'm hearing is that the city is like learning and absorbing that, so that the PMP might be a better fit for shorter, simpler projects. But this one, given the complexity of it, it's wiser to take the time needed to let the process breathe, engage the stakeholders, create the buy-in needed so that we have a successful end result.
Very well said.
All right, great. And so Ella, I was very impressed with the peninsula, the Burlingame San Mateo project. That was really exciting. I've been on the, I've been on this soapbox of needing to integrate and coordinate across cities. So that was really wonderful to hear. Could I hear a little bit more? I can't remember, or I don't quite understand. So in terms of is there like multiple parts of this that are San Mateo and then other parts are Burlingame, and that's why we need to coordinate on it? Is it that we want to have a continuous flow design? Oh, the presentation's gone. Okay, there it is. Could you just walk me through like what does that coordination with the city of Burlingame look like? Like, how does that coordination happen? What are you guys talking about? Stuff like that.
I'll go ahead and take this one as well, as
Great.
Ella is getting up to speed. So if you imagine Peninsula, and this is the longer term effort, this is really a multimodal complete street. So we are planning and revamping the whole entire corridor to include multiple modes. The center line, roughly speaking, I don't want to get too technical, but just on the center line, if you look at the northern portion, that ultimately is Burlingame right-of-way, and the southern portion is San Mateo right-of-way. So we are looking—
Like a zipper. It's
Yes. Exactly. So we need to go ahead and include our partner agency there in Burlingame. And this is one of the priorities as well, where we are partnering up to revamp the corridor. And I just want to note that this corridor is identified as the #1 priority in the entire bicycle master plan. And historically, having 2 cities is difficult, but this is one where we both view as a priority, and we're going to make it work.
That's great. Do you think this project will be coming to the commission during the design phase? We haven't started design yet, right?
We have not started design. We will be engaging in our $1.65 million. It's a planning effort, and the commission will most definitely be seeing this project in the future.
Great. That's very exciting. Okay. The other thing I had a question on was quick builds. Super cool that we're, kind of using the Hillsdale High School quick build and then thinking about what a longer term design would be. Does the city foresee other quick build projects in potentially with that kind of experimentation in some of the other intersections and other streets for bike ped?
Yes.
Do you know which ones yet?
We have a list currently, and there's about a dozen projects that is in our quick build program. So if you think about it, the quick build program is intended to ultimately improve safety really fast. So instead of going through our normal capital project a process that easily takes 18 months, there is a significantly truncated duration for those projects. So painted curb extensions are type of improvements. Rectangular rapid flashing beacons are one. New crosswalks, lighting improvements. These more quick hitting projects are the ones that are on the list. We did not include the holistic list here, but there's over a dozen projects currently in the quick build program.
That's awesome. I think for a future presentation, if you're able to like just take some photos of them or something, I think that would be really inspiring for the public, because that's the sort of stuff that people feel, I think, is like very responsive, right, to their requests or when they call in or express concerns. And so from a community engagement standpoint, having that in the record, I think, is actually really helpful for what it's worth. I really appreciate, and just some comments on the presentation, I really appreciated the aerial shots of the bike lanes. I don't think we've quite seen that like in that way before. So thank you. That was really inspiring. I think I would love to see a little more content as things evolve on as the work maybe starts up again with the new staff on like how would the content and tone of the community engagements that happen, not just the fact that they do happen, but like what has been the vibe on them? What are some of the challenges you're encountering? What are some of the ways that you're overcoming those challenges? I think showing your work, right? And sharing that in a narrative form is really useful for the public. Again, and just in terms of feeling, being heard, feeling the transparency between the city and the public, I think will be great. So it doesn't need to just be, we can maybe like reduce some of the report out on the slides and focus on some of the narrative around it as things evolve. And otherwise, I think, I think the Hillsdale Corridor Study, Matt, sounds like a lovely idea. Anything that the commission can do to support that, I think would be a really inspiring thing for our community. Let me see, any other comments? Oh, sorry, one more question, Jay, on the bollards at B Street. What did you say that they have some sort of crash rating? So like that means like if a truck hit it, is that okay? Like can you describe the safety quality of the bollards? Because they look nice, but they also are movable.
I don't know the exact crash rating before. So if you guys recall, the original process, we brought a design, and the Meridian barriers that you see there were one of the original alternatives. I can't recall what that is at the moment. I'm going to put Catherine Sheehan on the spot to see if she recalls.
I also don't recall, but I think they're rated for a specific, miles per hour and vehicle, as if they're hit head on. And
Okay.
as you know, they're positioned at the edges of the ped mall. So it's unlikely that they would be hit head on. So it does
Except
make
for
it
a
a lot
bad
safer.
actor, yeah.
I think it's something on the order of 30 miles per hour.
Okay.
Something. Meridian barriers. And they're also set up so that, they can be moved very easily out of the way for emergency responders. So we have these lockers as well. And so all the emergency responders have keys to those lockers. And so they have this stick, for lack of a better word, and they can move those quickly if they needed to.
That's great.
And just a little bit more context, we put the Meridian barriers at First Avenue and Third Avenue, so there's still the planter boxes at Second Avenue on both sides of the intersection, and so that is going to be the primary in and out for businesses that need to get in there. That would be the primary emergency access point, because although Catherine made it sound like it's fairly easy to move these, it's actually a dolly that you have to get out of the locker and then individually move each of these barriers. They're not easy to move on their own. So emergency access, so we've done training and meetings with all the public safety folks to make sure that they're aware of all the changes with that. And I think we also, Jay, I think we changed so that when you're coming out now on Second Avenue, that we synchronize the signals so that as you're leaving the pedestrian mall, you'll get a green signal. So there's more to than just the barriers. We actually did traffic signal coordination on that as well.
That's amazing. Thank you. Sorry, last question, I realized. So on Humboldt, the report out from the February council meeting, I was really inspired by the conversation about potentially exploring a feasibility study on Humboldt for a one-way. Do you have a sense of like where that would go in a queue of the various priorities and projects that Public Works has?
I don't know exactly because actually we just went over our list and we have a really long list. But I can tell you Humboldt is a priority project. So the directive from City Council from February 2026, all of those are priority items at the moment. We're meeting on a weekly basis to execute them. And I'm just going to go over it real quick. So City Council directed us to proceed forward with speed calming. So those are in addition to what was provided in our LRSP Priority Package 1 project. We are going to update lighting on Humboldt as well. So the entire corridor, all the way from 5th to Peninsula. We are immediately exploring a Humboldt specific permit program. So we're looking into that. We're getting data. We're going to engage the community there that's directly affected and then ultimately bring something back to City Council for approval. We have been coordinating with PD to go ahead and explore additional enforcement in the greater North Central community. We have been in discussions about rideshare programs for Humboldt. Again, the thought about that is if you can't park directly in front of your street, we want to go ahead and see if there are ways to increase potentially shuttle service to go ahead and have that be a mechanism to get to your home. And then we are applying innovations that we learned from the bike boulevards that were designed for Fremont and Idaho and applying that to future bike boulevards. I know we have had consistent comments that maybe some of our older bike boulevards isn't up to par, but we did learn a lot from the Humboldt process. So we are applying that moving forward and then exploring a one-way feasibility. There are multiple phases to that. And currently we're talking to health and safety to ultimately look at the feasibility for that.
Great. Thank you so much. That really appreciate it. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Renaud.
Thank you. And welcome, Ella. I'm no longer the newest person in this room. Really quick, one question, and thank you for the presentation. It was great. And it's really nice to see the holistic projects that are happening in the city. I don't want to harp on these ballards, but the more questions I have. For example, you just said that they're movable, but you need a dolly to do it. So it's not really for an emergency. If there's an emergency, you don't have a dolly around. So I guess my question is, they're permanent.
That's the current iteration of what we're doing. There's always the possibility in the future that, we may ultimately go forward with the hydraulic barriers, but that was a significant cost impact. And so these were more affordable. Just to clarify in terms of the movability, we did install bike lockers down there directly, adjacent to where these barriers are. So there is a dolly that's right there. But in an emergency situation, it's not likely where, public safety is going to go and get a dolly and move that. That's why we've worked with them on accessing it through 2nd Avenue. But the dolly is readily available to move them, but it does take time. You have to move each one individually. So
I guess this is kind of a random thought. When you see other cities that have pedestrian walking just like this, like Mountain View, for example, this is a infrastructure and sustainability commission, not just /sustainability. So I would just like to remind us that there are other ways to block off streets, like huge planter boxes that bring in nature, have native plants, can welcome a little bit of biodiversity and do the same job. They would be much prettier. And given that you need a dolly anyway, and that it's not like, given that it's difficult to move these on a moment's notice, I would just, as a resident of downtown, it would be nice to see a little color and beauty in nature have a double meaning, right? Double effect on this. That's not these kind of something called ballards. That would be my only comment on that. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I give a quick piece of information?
Sure.
Thank you so much. So I did a quick onto their website Google search. The bollards conform to ASTM, so it's American Society of Testing Materials, to stop a 15,000-pound vehicle doing 30 miles an hour And no penetration between 23.1 and 98.4 feet. So within that radius, nothing's going to get by. They apparently clip into the ground. If you look at the picture of the bollard, it's a wedge design. So it's meant to go like this, which would lift the car up in the air and stop it. When you unclip it, apparently, according to the website, the wheels that are on the back, that's the dolly. So if the fire department has a key for it, or however they unclip it off the ground, move it out of the clips and then roll it out of the way to get the fire trucks in. I think that's what's going on. But it seems to be somewhat robust. If you're interested, I could send you the website, but it's public knowledge. It's right there. Thank you.
Youth commissioners, would you like to make some comment? Commissioner Singh?
Okay, I just have one question. Thank you, Ms. Ella, for presenting. Lots of details, lots of numbers. But concerning 19th Avenue and Fashion Island, I noticed that in terms of community meetings, there were 2 held last year and only 1 planned for this year before the design phase is expected to be finalized. Is there a specific reason for that, or is that based off of like how many people turned out to the last meeting?
Yeah, so really good question. So what really ultimately dictates this when we first strategize our outreach, we wanted to, of course, leave a couple of potential areas for having more meetings, but there's been a consistent theme when we're looking at a lot of these meetings. Vehicle congestion is one, and this project ultimately does serve that purpose, improving safety throughout the entire corridor, consistent theme, and ultimately we are solving that as well. And then the last one obviously is providing more diverse modes, and in this specific instance, it is a class 4 bicycle facility. So we do have one currently planned that's in April 7th, but we also have a virtual meeting as well. So you can kind of look at that as 2 opportunities to go ahead and provide feedback. Now, behind the scenes, we also have focused discussions as well with community members, and we do plan to bring an item back to City Council as well. So multiple options, but ultimately we do have a lot of grant funding on that project, over $26 million. Don't want to give you the percentage, but it is a really good deal for the city. But of course, when you take grant funding, there are some obligations ultimately that we have to follow. But ultimately, what dictates is we have heard the community and we are aligning with a lot of goals that the community is discussing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Just through the chair to supplement that, I think often with these projects, our community outreach, and we did this with the Humboldt bike lanes, is that we typically have, a community meeting that's really orienting people to the project initially. The second meeting is often bringing some sort of lower level design that gives them something to see and react to. And then the third meeting is often giving them follow up saying, this is what we heard from you and this is how we've addressed your concerns in the final design. So that 3 sort of meeting approach is sort of typical for the projects that we do. So it gives us a way to introduce it, get some initial feedback, and then come back and show people how the final design conforms with that. So.
And one more thing to add, the items that we listed there, July 15th, November 5th, those are town hall meetings and virtual meetings as well. But let's not forget, we also have a lot of other distribution methods in terms of a survey, in terms of websites that we ultimately solicit feedback. So there are multiple ways that we have been collecting data. Even before the July 15th town hall, we have been collecting data from the community as well due to means of surveys.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for this presentation. Sorry, I can't really see you. Like my
the
first
screens
question-
do go up and down, so you can move that.
There we go. Like for this plan that we're reviewing right now, have you guys like considered changing or like modifying any bike boulevards to like sort of class 2 or 4 bike lanes, or just like sort of trying to get like more infrastructure laid down?
And Commissioner, Junior Commissioner Scott, are you referring to the entire bicycle master plan?
Yeah.
Yes. So we are looking at that holistically, but we do not have intentions at the moment to modify what was adopted by City Council. For example, if it was identified as a bicycle boulevard, we are not changing it to another facility. But what we are doing is focusing on making a bicycle boulevard as safe as possible. And that's two main criteria, speeds and volumes, that we're looking at. And again, we're innovating. We are learning from just past projects, and Humboldt being the most recent example.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then also for the downtown pedestrian mall, like one of the main goals was like biking improvements. And like, do you plan to sort of like add anything else there, like to address biking, or is it mainly just pedestrians?
Yeah, that's really a pedestrian focused corridor. There are some signs ultimately to have bicyclists dismount, but that's something that we will note. But currently, right now, it's identified mostly as a pedestrian corridor.
Okay, great. And then lastly, like for AB 413, I noticed you guys had like started talking about like in spring 2026, some construction was going on, but is there like an estimated completion date, or is that more just like a like something that's like going to be present for a while and like it comes up like as needed?
That I am not sure, and I'm gonna look towards Deputy
So-
Sheehan.
For this AB 413, really, it is going to take a long time to get to what I think full completion, so to speak. But keep in mind that for this AB 413, it was immediately effective at the time that the law was passed. So those 20 feet in advance of crosswalks, those are enforceable right away. So you can't park there. However, the red curb, what it does do, it's more of an awareness campaign. So it helps to let people know that you shouldn't park in those spaces. What we've been doing is really targeting areas that pedestrians would frequent. So we started with the schools as a priority. And then now we're focusing on areas radially around parks and then downtown, but we have to wait for the good weather to continue our efforts. We hope that this park and downtown areas would be done, crossing fingers, in this fiscal year. But then following that, we might have to take a brief pause just, to work within our budget, because the more red curb we put in, the more we have to then replace. But eventually maybe we'll get all the AB 413 red curb in there, because we're also putting it in as we do other projects like pavement projects.
All right, great. Thank you so much, guys.
And maybe just to add to that, it gets complicated as we get into certain areas of the city, especially if you already have striped parking, and then you have to come in and stripe a red zone 20 feet from the crosswalk. That can affect all of the parking stalls that you already have striped. And so there's certain areas where it's going to require more evaluation and design to figure out what the solution is. If you're in a quiet residential area that doesn't have striped parking, it's not as big a deal, but there are certain areas where it gets a little bit more complicated. So it takes a little bit more time for us to figure that out. But I think, as you can imagine, throughout the city, we have thousands of intersections with thousands of locations that are subject to AB 413. But as Catherine said, the law went into effect, I think, January of last year, 2026, I believe. And so 2025. Yeah. Anyway, whenever it went into effect, it's technically illegal to park within that zone, but it's difficult for our police department to enforce it when we don't have the red curb there. So.
All right, great. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a clarifying question. Commissioner Scott's question on the potentially upselling a bike boulevard to a bike lane made me think, what is the process to potentially do that? Does that project have to then get reapproved by City Council? Is it that you would hear it from the stakeholders that due to safety and other concerns, they would want it to be upsold to a class 2 or 4? Like, because I hear you that like until you hear otherwise, you're going to implement the 2020 plan as approved by council. But what would need to be the conditions?
We don't know because we haven't ran across that at the moment, but I would imagine because it is a city council adopted plan, there would need to be some type of amendment in order for that to occur.
But yet at the same time, City Council still approves each of the big projects, project by project, or in a portfolio, right, as you guys present them. So even though they're in the bike master plan for 2020, each project is still approved by City Council, correct? Because Humboldt had to be voted on, even though like the fact that it was the class 2 was going to show up, like it was showing up in the bike master plan?
So it will depend on different phases. So, for example, the bicycle master plan, what was outlined there in terms of its improvement, staff has ultimately authority to go ahead and proceed for what was outlined in the adopted plan. If we are to deviate from what was adopted, I think we would first ask for council direction that that's where they want to go, because it is a lot of resources, time, and effort to go into something that deviates from an adopted plan.
Got it.
I guess through the chair, maybe one thing to add is that the bike master plan is also a representation of priorities and need. So it identified, high, medium, high priority projects. So for projects that already have a bike boulevard, they may not rank as highly as a project with no facilities in place. So I think implementing the high and medium high priority projects out of the bike master plan first and using our funding there, we're still doing that now with our funds. So that's kind of also a reason to work within the framework of the approved bike master plan.
Yeah, understood. All right, thank you.
And then just to add on to that a little bit more, I think Jay could clarify on this, but I think that to some extent, some of the decisions about where bike boulevards make sense is also based on the width of the roadways. And so, you may not have the space to say that you're going to upsize something that was designated as a bike boulevard to include bike lanes, because you either have to remove parking or things like that. So that's where it gets more challenging. So I think there were some of those decisions that were baked into the bike master plan in terms of what roadways make sense for what types of facilities.
Thank you so much, Ella, for that comprehensive report, and also for all staff having thorough answers to our many questions. I did manage to come up with just a few more, but nothing big. I was curious, the slide that shows the vision for the bike lane on 19th Ave in Fashion, that felt really inspiring to imagine that happening. But I see, so we got a grant for 16 million, but the construction is 26 million. Like, could you just explain how far I think it was the SMCTA grant would get us in this project? Like, far enough for us to actually see this on the road, or not yet?
Yes, really good question. So there are a lot of funding sources in this project, and ultimately this entire project exceeds $28 million. And as of this moment, out of the 28.5, about 19 million of it, 19.5 million is already secure. So that's funding we do have. Right now, the TA, the SMCTA, San Mateo County Transportation Authority, is recommending to MTC that they allocate the remaining $3 million in regional measure funds for this project. And when that is done, and we're expecting, fingers crossed, sometime in summer to fall of this year, this project will be fully funded. So if we look at the construction schedule here, if all goes well, starting spring to summer of next year, we can hit the ground and actually make the improvements. So a long way coming. There is ultimately, I think, over 11 different funding agencies that are supporting this project. By far the most diverse in funding portfolio project that I have worked on. And for comparison, the $200 million grade separation project had about 5 funding sources. So this $30 million project has close to a dozen.
Well, we'll definitely keep our fingers crossed to see that happen then. And then, back to that downtown Ballard photo. I think I did mean to drive by before this meeting, but I didn't have a chance. I think also one reason that we keep coming back to this is, at least in the photo, they don't look as attractive. A lot of was invested in that pedestrian, the paint and the lights, and it's just a really nice area to walk around. But something that Matt said, there were planter boxes there, right? Is this in place of that, or is it? Can you just explain that a bit more? Because I did get a little confused.
Yeah, so there previously were wooden planters boxes, and so there were the outside ones were stationary, the inside ones were on rollers and movable. They weren't crash rated, so we replaced those with crash rated barriers. We had considered possibly using the two together, but we're concerned about impairing the functionality of the meridian barriers. We want to make sure that these work as intended, so we can't really stack the two together. But we do still have the vegetated planters right now that are at our courtyard decorating alongside our warehouse. But but they do still exist at Second Avenue, the same barriers.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, the planters.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll make my judgment of how they look when I actually walk down the area. And then just my last question, I was also curious what public comment speaker Mike Swire brought up about El Camino and Beauvais, the accident that happened there. And if you could just speak, because I know when I drive through that intersection, I often see students crossing El Camino to go, I think, to the middle school. But if you could just speak to what he meant about Caltrans versus the city trying to figure out what's going on and who's that responsible, and will this trigger improvements to that intersection?
Yeah, so if I recall the public comment from Mike Swire, he mentioned that there is some, I guess, confusion in regards to ultimately operates the intersection. So that is one where we will be talking to Caltrans to clarify on the record. We have a meeting scheduled in April to talk about that intersection as well as the greater El Camino corridor in San Mateo, but I think that's what he was referring to. Now, historically, Caltrans does own and operate their signals, and I think that term needs to be defined. You know, there are certain maintenance agreements where the city at intersections maintain. Also on El Camino, there is street lighting that we maintain. But in terms of operations, we're talking about who controls the amount of green time that a certain phase has, as well as the phasing of maybe potentially having an exclusive pedestrian phase. So we will clarify that at the moment, but historically it has been operated by Caltrans, but we will get to the bottom of that for that specific intersection.
Okay, and hopefully just the way, it's just similar to like you're working with Burlingame on Peninsula, and there's been accidents there too. Hopefully we could come to some improvements with Caltrans at that intersection also. Okay, I think that is the end. Thank you so much for your presentation. Are there any other reports or announcements?
Just quickly through the chair, for Commissioner Narita, I did do a quick skim of the local roadway safety plan, and I don't find the words tier in there, and we'll go back and double check. But I think it may have referenced the fact that we had sort of specific locations that we identified for specific improvements, and then there were more systemic improvements that were things that would be done citywide. And so the reference that you saw in the presentation may have been referring to the fact that these were the site-specific locations that we recommended improvements in LRSP versus the citywide systemic improvements that would be things like no right turn on red, citywide sort of things, or things like that. So that's my best assessment of what the tiers reference. But when I do a search for tier, it doesn't even come up in the document. So
Got it.
so
Okay.
we can do a double check, and if we get a different answer, we'll get back to you.
Thank you, because I didn't remember tiers either. That's why I was just like, oh, what's going on? Thank you.
Matt, do you have any announcements?
Just in terms of crystal ball for future meetings, I don't believe we have anything currently scheduled for the April meeting. So we will continue to look in terms of whether there is something to bring that needs to come to the commission, or we will look at potentially canceling that. And then May is the date that we are looking at potentially bringing the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Boulevard project back. And I believe that we also have an item from Andrea on the sustainability side, and I'm blanking right now on what that item was. But there's a sustainability, it might be the climate action plan. Yeah, so so that's April and May in terms of future meeting topics. And then I do believe that the clerk let me know that Commissioners Michael as well as Commissioner Robbins are terming out at the end of June. And so there will be, a process to go through recruiting new commissioners for that. And then I guess I didn't realize that the youth commissioners are 1-year terms as well. And so I believe the youth commissioners are also their time is up in June or so, I believe. So, and so I think that that we'll be going through some of those changes and switching, doing the chair and vice chair nominations and elections in the June timeframe as well. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you. I mean, this isn't quite an announcement, but I do just want to commend. I thought it was really exciting at the council meeting that both reach codes and leaf blower ban went through. And those are two things that came through our commission. And I think those are going to be really impactful. So just wanted to bring attention to that. Otherwise, oh, yes.
My promise to be brief. So three things. One, we could have done offline. There's a latency between when the speaker speaks and you hear the words on the screen. I don't know if you care about that, but it's almost half a second. So it's 500 milliseconds. As your IT person should know about that. The other thing is, I noticed you kind of moved the speaker box from the upper right-hand corner where it was blocking some of your data to now it's closer to the bottom. But thanks for that. That's a big help. That really worked. Do we still have a community media person?
The city did just bring on a new communications manager in the last month or two. Yeah.
Just spitballing, does it make sense when we have these community engagement meetings to have that person there? Perhaps, I don't know, interviewing is a big word, but just taking the pulse, take the temperature of the room, harvesting some comments, and then either memorializing it with something she could write to you guys, or I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. Does it make sense to have our community engagement person at some of these meetings to just
we can bring that feedback back. I mean, we definitely consult with our communications team in the city manager's office on all of our community meetings and strategies and things like that. So their input is involved. But typically they aren't coming out to the meetings.
Okay, it was just a
we can bring that
suggestion.
feedback.
The last thing is the leaf blower. Rob Newsom brought up an interesting point. Is the leaf blowers only for leaf blowers, or does it include anything gas powered at certain hours?
I believe it's just leaf blowers.
That's what I thought. So we brought up in our commission that we might want to include string trimmers, and it didn't make it in there. So I guess we'll save that for another day. Okay, that's it. Thanks for your presentation.